Hey, good morning guys. Tush coming at you. Monday, September the 18th, just coming up to 11:30 in the morning. Another beautiful day today, just like we had for yesterday's 34th annual British Car Day. Toronto Triumph Club's British Car Day. Had a good day there. I have no idea how many cars were there. Over 1,000, I'm sure. Congratulations to Ellen Yakov for winning a third place with his Spitfire. Well deserved. It's always nice to win an award at British Car Day. There's a ton of cars on the field. I'm not sure how many Spitfires were in Ellen's category. I know there are a lot on the field. I know there were probably close to 100 TR6s there on display. So always difficult to win an award at British Car Day. So again, well deserved, Ellen. Anyway, I'm happy with the way the TR6 ran to and from the show. We had her up to some pretty good speeds on the toll route and on the highway. So everything's good, I think, and ready to go as far as running condition for the road trip. What I'm out here to do today is just to really unpack the trunk and just take an inventory of what I have in the trunk as far as tools and spare parts. I took a quick inventory before I went to British Car Day, but I want to make sure that I've got everything that I really want to take with me. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to unpack the entire trunk, unpack the contents of my tool bag. The orange case is all my electronics, spare Patronics, spare rotors, spare caps, that kind of stuff. And then underneath the trunk board where the spare tire is, I usually pack a lot more parts around the bottom there, like spare coils and spark plugs, that kind of stuff, fan belt, etc. So what I plan to do is just really take apart the trunk of the car and sort of lay it out on this table here, and then just see what I have, make an inventory, and then repack it. If there's something I don't have, obviously I'm going to need to get it before I leave. I do have some spare parts inside that I've got sitting around for the 250 restoration that I might be able to pirate. One thing I definitely know that I want to get is a... let me turn that radio down a little bit before I get a copyright infringement on my video. Hang on for a sec. Anyway, one of the things I know that I definitely want to have on my trip is, well, there are two things. One thing for sure is I want to have a new heater valve or a spare heater valve just in case. I've had the heater valve go on me before. It's not a pretty sight pulling up to a stoplight in a fog of coolant, because obviously the coolant leaks out of the heater valve right directly on top of the exhaust manifold. So that's not a good thing, so I want to have a spare one of those. And the only other real problem I've had on any trip is fuel pump related. I've had to spend a few minutes in a McDonald's parking lot in Buffalo repairing or changing out a fuel pump at one point in time. So I always want to make sure that I have at least one spare fuel pump with me. Have sort of been taking to also bringing an electric pump along just in case. I did pack one here. I've got one here just in the corner of the car just in case I need to wire that up. A lot of the times my parts end up going towards other people's problems, or what we call roadside technical sessions. We usually use things like, I always usually bring spare hoses along with me too, so somebody usually ends up blowing out one of their rad hoses that they haven't changed for about 30 years or 40 years. So I tend to have spares that other people use, and that's okay. I'm just happy to have all the cars in the group running and not having anybody stranded at the side of the road. So anyway, before I start rambling on here, we're going to start unpacking the trunk and laying it out on this table over here to see what we've got. I'll bring you back. It's not a bad sized trunk in these TR6s actually, when you consider it's a sports car. So here it is with the carpet removed. I've just moved the carpet here inside the passenger compartment for the moment. I just wanted to show you the trunk before I lift the spare tire board. You can see that the original spare, a red line spare, is under here. So I just thought I'd give you a quick shot of that before I take that trunk board out, and we'll see what parts we have stored underneath that board. Alright, the first thing I'm going to pack in the car is I've got a complete radiator hose set here and clamps to go with it. I had a bunch of loose old radiator hoses, but I think I'll just go with the new pack. I know I've got everything that I need in here. I will probably take a few little spare pieces of fuel hose as well. I've got a couple spare pieces here. So I'll probably just take those along as well, just in case. And I've also got some some more like worm style clamps as well, and smaller clamps for fuel lines, that kind of thing. So those are the first things I'll pack. And again, I'm going to pack them away strategically down in the corners of the spare tire well. Yes, I know it's overkill, but I'm going to take 3 pumps with me. I'm going to take an original style pump, an earlier style pump. This is more like a TR250 pump. And then we've got an electric pump here, as well as some spare fuel line. So we're going to pack that away. And again, one of the corners where I can get to it easily enough, right here. So there's the aforementioned fuel line. You see my fan belt there. I always carry just some tie wire, just in case somebody has an issue with their exhaust falling off or something needs to be wired up. It's always good to have some tire wire along with you. So we've got some of that. We've got some spare spark plugs. And here's the heater water valve that I talked about. So we got a spare one of those. We'll cram it in there somewhere. So that's that. And one of the other things I like to take is a spare coil. So we'll find a spot for that in the corner of the trunk, and we'll wrap it up and stick it in there. Sort of a non-essential, but I've got room for it, so I'm going to take it kind of thing. I've got a vacuum gauge, and I've got a carb balancing tool. We also like to bring along some zip ties, so I've got some zip ties. If you ever watch Roadkill, they're big into zip ties. I've got some there, and I think I've got some in my green bag. We're just going to start unpacking the green bag and going through the tools, and I have some parts in here as well. Here's one thing I'm going to pack just in case. This is a oil feed line, which I haven't replaced on my car. This is a stainless steel version. The original plastic version is here, and it's getting pretty old looking. I haven't had the time to replace this yet. I've just been keeping an eye on it. But if that happens to go, we have a new one to install in, it won't be in short order. This has got to go up behind the oil gauge, so a little bit of snaking and work behind the dash, but if we got to do it, we got to do it. So we'll pack that along with us as well. Just going through my tool bag now, and I'm not going to show you all the tools I carry, but there's a few things that you definitely want to think about when you're on the road. The first thing I have is this little tool here, and this is just a simple clamp to close off a fuel line if required. You know, just pinches a fuel line. You can have that, or just a pair of something like needle nose vice grips, but this is a convenient tool to shut off a fuel line if you need to change a fuel pump out at the side of the road. This works really well. The other thing that you really want to carry is not only a flashlight. I usually carry a battery powered flashlight. This is a hand cranked flashlight, so I don't have to worry about batteries running out, that kind of thing. It's also got an emergency beacon flashing light on here as well that you can be used. It's also got an alarm on it, which I'll probably never use, but it's also got a little radio built into it. So it's all in one kind of thing. I think this came with one of the Mercedes I used to have. So there's the radio function there. But anyway, a good thing to have is a flashlight that doesn't require batteries. Also not a bad idea on the road to have some gasket making stuff. So I've got some ultra copper here. I've got some high temperature red. I've also got a couple different types of adhesives if you might need some adhesive for some reason. So I usually just pack that along as well. Along with that, I always pack some gloves because again, you're not going to have any water to be able to clean your greasy, grimy hands off at the side of the road. So it's always nice to have a pair of gloves you can just slip on to do your repair work. This is just a reminder for people that might be running aftermarket wheels that have a stock spare. So I run these aftermarket Koenig rims that have spline drive lug nuts on them. So obviously I need the spline lug key for that wheel. I also need stock lug nuts and a stock lug wrench to put the spare on if need be. So I've got a little kit here that has the spline lug wrench and a regular lug wrench and my stock lug nuts. So I'm going to pack that along. So here's my last little bit of kit for the road trip, and it's mostly electrical stuff. So I've got electrical connectors, some crimpers. I've got a couple of jump leads. I've got a test light in there. I do have a fuel filter in here. I've got some wire to run if I have to run the electric pump, for example. I've got some extra lengths of wire. Got some fuses in there. I've got an extra distributor cap. I've got some extra rotors in here. Some electrical tape, obviously, and I think that's pretty much about it for this kit. Again, some more small lengths of fuel line and some clamps, some springs, just in case one of my springs lets go or I need one. I've got a few extra little things in there. So that's a look at the last remaining kit. I do have a few elements in the glove compartment. I'll pull out and show you what I've got in there. It's not much, but I'll show you what I got packed. Yeah, it's starting to get a little dark outside. We have a few rumbles of thunder in the distance, so anyway, the last thing I've got in my glove box is we've got a voltage meter, and I've got some carburetor components here. These are new diaphragms for the ZS carbs. They would be a little difficult to find on the road, so we packed a few of those along. And we also packed some O-rings. These are for the bottom plugs in the bottom of the carbs, which dry out and allow fuel to leak out of the bottom of the carb. And of course the carbs are directly over the exhaust manifold, so that's not a good combination. So always good to have a few spare O-rings with you. You can just pop out those plugs in, replace the O-rings in a matter of minutes, actually. And the most important thing that I've got packed is my cell phone and my CAA card. Alright, we'll talk to you later, guys. Some of you might be asking the question, well, where's the shop manual? I don't actually carry a shop manual with me on road trips. I do bring a tablet with me. And the tablet has all my shop manuals downloaded in PDF files, so I have access to that. The only thing I actually have a hard copy of with me are a wiring diagram, which I find a little bit easier to have a hard copy of. And I've got a copy of, or a photo of, my distributor with points installed, which I took before I actually swapped over to Petronix. The reason I did that is because it's been so long ago since I've actually had points in this car that if I ever need to go back to points, I'm going to need some sort of reference. So I have an actual hard copy photo packed away with my points and condenser just in case. I do actually have a spare Petronix module packed away as well, but like I said again, in some cases the parts may not be required for myself, but they may help somebody else within the group. So I think that's pretty much it as far as getting prepared for the road trip. I think I've packed as much as I'm going to pack. Some of you guys might think it's overkill, but a few parts here and there have saved me and saved others while en route to the event. So I'd rather have it than not, let's say. And if I've got the room, I may as well bring it. Anyway, so that's it. We'll talk to you later.